Hi, this is Kayla Van Zant, your LFC. I wanted to review a few topics with you in this meeting. First, I want to talk about evaluation breakdown. So, there are several areas of the evaluation that come directly from the peer review data. These areas include discussion facilitation, assignment feedback, and discussion and assignment grading. So these are compiled from peer reviews from the past year, and the rating on the evaluation does directly correlate with the peer review emails that you've received each week. So 15% N is the threshold for receiving a not meet or not met rating in any category. And taking a look at a couple of examples here, first discussion facilitation, you'll see on the left side it does give an overview of total N's, E's, and M's. Received by the instructor, but on the right side, it does break it down a little bit more specifically for us. So this is what we're going to use for the evaluation because each of these categories does transfer directly to a category on the evaluation. So we're going to take a look at how that works. So first, for all the way on the left, establishes instructor presence. You can see it's 13% N, since that is below the 15% threshold. If we look over here, our rating for the evaluation will be an M or a meets expectations. Once we kind of get the feel for this, you can see pretty quickly the 22% in the quantity and the 32% not meet in the timeliness would be ends or not meets on the evaluation, simply because they are over that 15% threshold. So if we want to break it down even further, we can look at each term that the instructor was reviewed for. So you can see right here, it does list all of the terms. This is helpful because we can see how many students were reviewed in each term, and for each of those students reviewed, what rating was received, whether it was an E, M, or N. So looking at assignment feedback, it is the same idea, but just different areas here. So you can see the total amount of E, M's, and N's. And also for assignment feedback, you will notice there are a percentage of NAs. These would be for assignments that are auto-graded. That is taken into account. So if we look at how the assignment feedback data transfers to the evaluation, we can see here it's the same 15% threshold. So we can see that right away polish is the only 15% N. So the rating for the polish would be a not meets in the evaluation, but all of the rest of them would be a meets. Breaking it down even further here, again, for the assignment feedback, you can see which terms were reviewed, how many students were reviewed during the terms, and then what ratings were received for each of those students. Another area that is included is the fair and consistent grading practices. So this does directly correlate with CAPS and discussion and assignment grading. So these are combined, so we'll have to look at both of them in order to get an accurate rating. You'll see for discussion grading, it is slightly less than a 6% N, and for assignment grading, it's just over 15%. But if we average them together, then the overall percentage for fair and consistent grading practices is less than 15% N, so that would still be a meets for that category. I also wanted to review the new TSO timeline with you. This was presented in the all faculty meeting, but there was a lot of confusion around when this is actually going to roll out. So I wanted to review it again. So the TSO emails are now being sent on Thursdays instead of Fridays, which is awesome because you get an extra day during the live week to reach out to students. You get a head start on that outreach, but you do want to note that the deadline is now Wednesday instead of Thursday of that next week. So best practice is still to conduct outreach as soon as possible after you receive the TSO email. So ideally you would conduct outreach on either that Thursday when it's sent or Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. But just keep in mind that the deadline is Wednesday of the next week because they will be pulling that data on Thursday. So what does this mean for instructors? Well, they are doing a soft review, so it means that any outreach outside of the Thursday to Wednesday timeline will not be counted against you for evaluations, but you still may receive coaching in these areas to discuss any areas of opportunity, to review best practices, and to answer any questions that you may have. I do also want to review an email that Uni sent last week. We know that instructors were having many issues with Starfish, and specifically the rosters not syncing with the student list in Blackboard. So they were aware of those issues and they were working all week to get a resolution. Unfortunately, at that point, they weren't able to resolve anything yet, so they were postponing the reviews for that week. So anyone that missed outreach due to those issues would not be penalized. I also wanted to take a minute to review day to day with you and just share a peek about what's going on behind the scenes and also explain how this may affect you. So, things that we looked at were according to the data, what does program health look like? What does instructional health look like? And what can we do to improve both? So, here is a scorecard that we used that actually captured kind of the program data all in one. So, what we looked at was on the left side, we looked at the course ratings, whether they were at risk, watch, good, or great. And then on the right side, we looked at instructional practices to see areas where instructors were performing consistently and strongly, and other areas where instructors might need extra support or review. So first we identified the course bucket, again, according to student performance in the course, whether it was good or great. It was at risk, critical risk, watch. And then we paired that with instructional practices to figure out what bucket each course was in. Then we analyzed the data. We looked at instructional strengths and weaknesses, areas that we wanted to prioritize with instructors, looking at the scope, whether most instructors needed coaching or support, just some, or if there were only a few instructors that needed that, and then to write a specific goal regarding the instructional practices. Then we looked at how. So we had the option of doing it in a program meeting, a small group, a one-on-one. What are we going to use to outline these best practices and support instructor performance? Looking at who was going to be responsible for this task, whether it was the program leader, the LFC, an LFM, a trainer, and then when were we going to do this by? So, how does this affect you as instructors? So, every course has a coaching plan, including that how, what, who, when that we just saw. So, your course's action plan will depend on how your course is doing overall and how students are generally performing in your course, and also what instructional trends are found in the course, like what strengths and weaknesses and areas of priority that we want to focus on. And then also looking at, do most instructors have opportunity for growth, or is there just one or a small group? An example for you is that the TSO and MTSS was a pain point that was identified for faculty across the program. So part of our action plan was to review the TSO expectations and best practices with all faculty during the HCM faculty meeting. So that was one of our goals that we had implemented to address this area of opportunity with all of our faculty. So we will be in touch about this as we continue moving forward with our day-to-day action plans. So stay tuned.